Welcome to another episode of the Refined Peasants podcast. I'm Wyatt.
I'm Garrett.
I'm Nick.
Alright, let's get after it.
And welcome to another episode where we're actually going to try to get back into our bread and butter with sex culture.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. No.
Oh,
So,
horror music plays.
You're obviously living in 2021, and you've probably noticed, if you were in the 90s like me, that things have gotten very, very sexualized. Not to say there weren't some really sexualized cartoons back in the 90s. Ren and Stimpy was very suggestive. But we have gotten to the point where, hoe culture or slut culture is celebrated now. Porn is rampant. Sex work is celebrated. And it's just, right off the cuff, I think the level of acceptance of sexuality being and promiscuity is not great for society. I think it's bad on a couple of levels. What do you guys think?
So on a micro level, I really don't care, to be completely honest with you.
Right.
Yeah,
Each individual.
However you make your money is no business of mine. I'm just pissed that they make more than me.
I'm saying on a societal level that maybe it's not the best thing. And maybe it shouldn't be pursued and given a level of esteem and respect that I don't think it deserves.
So let me make an analogy to kind of make my view on this. So, I have no problem if some random person wants to cut his arm off for whatever reason. I just don't think that we should normalize that as a society. That should not be something that we see and we say, "Oh, well, that's cool. Good for him." I don't really think so.
Right, and see, that's kind of how I view it too. You know what? I'm not going to judge you if you walk up. It's like, yeah, I work in porn, or yeah, I've got an OnlyFans. I'm just probably not going to ask you out to dinner because why pay $100 for a date night when I could pay $5 and see you naked right now? It's not just. I think it provides a lot of mostly to the relationship dynamic in society.
My biggest issue is it's easy. So you only see this with women.
Yeah, ain't no one paying for a dude's nudes.
It's almost non-existent for. So it's very easy for a woman to just give up on any kind of future career. Instead of being a nurse, I'm just gonna spread my legs. It's easy.
Instead of going to law school, I'm just gonna.
It's good, easy money, and to me that's my issue. It's so easy that I know a lot of girls from my class that graduated out of high school now have an OnlyFans. Almost a vast majority have an OnlyFans.
Okay, so the people I know that have an OnlyFans, and I don't subscribe to their OnlyFans either because I'm not. I do separate thing. I don't
porn
buy.
Is free.
I don't pay for Strange. Damn it.
I don't pay for porn, but
you do.
The women who are making OnlyFans, those women were never going to be lawyers, guys.
That is true, but they literally.
But they could have been more productive than selling pictures of their asshole.
So literally, I know girls
may not be as rich.
Probably not. But
literally, they got out of high school, made OnlyFans. Bitch, was that your only plan? Was just to make an OnlyFans?
Just be a porn star?
Okay, yeah. So how do we think we got here?
The sexual revolution in the 1960s.
So it's our grandma's fault.
That kind of. That generation.
Hippies, free love.
It partially conservatives' fault too, because conservatives were very repressive of sexual culture. It was very conservatism in that branch of society was very much.
You didn't talk about it. What happened behind closed doors between two adults was no one business. Like your taxes and how much you make a year. No one talked about it. No one asked about it.
Well, and women were expected to dress a certain way, act a certain way.
And I would argue it goes back to when the flappers in the 20s came out, and women started dressing not so formal. They went out dancing. They did these type of dances. You had the flapper girls, and then every generation has a version of them. As it goes, and it gets more and more and more.
Suggestive.
Yes, less for. Less stuff to the imaginary. It's basically
less
all
conservative.
Out there. It's all out there.
And that's not to say, so prostitution is probably the world's oldest profession. And it is easily I mean, all you're doing is selling your body. Like that's, it's been done since time immemorial. But the level of social acceptance that it's received now is where I take issue, and I think it has a lot of detrimental effects. Specifically, and I know a lot of especially feminists are going to hear this and get mad at me, but I think it actually hurts women more than it benefits them.
Yeah, I can see
and we're going to explain why. So
I think the most people who are affected are if these people have kids.
Yeah. You're
Because
scrolling through Instagram and see a picture of your mom's asshole.
Well, picture you're in high school and you're in a verbal argument with someone, and he just pulls out his phone and goes, "This is your mom's vagina." What do you do?
For days.
Well, we had a kid at our high school, and we found out his mom was a porn star, and that poor kid.
Exactly. Like
there's nothing you can do.
You're really hurting the kid.
There's no counterpoint to your mom's had jizz on her face for money. Like, there is no.
You just kind of got to take it and go on, just like your mom.
Just like you.
So, look at Lana Rose. She's saying she's going to take down all her videos before she has a kid. She don't know how the internet works.
Yeah, once it's up, it's up. Like,
so,
there is
Pornhub, no offense, owns those videos now. They are their property.
Well, and depending on her porn, like, if she works for an agency, like,
they work
own
for, like, the Bang
videos.
Bros or stuff like this, yeah.
Right, private porn. So I guess that's a good transition to straight into one of the more prevalent and more obvious problems that's probably been around the longest of these. And that is the distribution of porn. Starting with, really Playboy. Hugh Hefner kind of pioneered
Made it
this.
revolutionary. Like,
Dude was damn good at what he did. He lived for a long-ass time, but I bet he gave that heart quite the run.
so quite the pumping.
Porn is now freely accessible to anyone with a smartphone.
Yeah.
And it's causing quite a few problems in men, mostly. So we have sexual addiction skyrocketing all the time. I think one of the other big problems with it is a desensitization. So, like you were saying earlier, Nick, there are men who can't get erections.
Yeah, they need porn to get hard now because they've watched it so much, and they basically train their body. The only way to get hard is through porn, and they can't get hard any other way.
I think they can't get excited by anything vanilla
because they've seen everything under the sun, essentially.
Right. I've seen a chick with a dick in every hole, and now just one doesn't really do it for me.
After the 10th casting couch, you kind of get used to it.
Right. And so, I think it's really, and part of what, so going to my statement earlier about how this hurts women more than I think they realize, is if men don't, one of the benefits a man gets out of being in a relationship is sex. That's just biological. If he doesn't get that benefit anymore, what benefit does he have for listening to your problems and trying to help you solve them? Or really it's not like women are only sexual objects. I'm not trying to say that. But one of the big incentives for especially younger men to get in relationships is consistent sex.
So my biggest thing is, like, the girl was sex the only reason you're with me? No. But I don't just buy a house just because the toilet. If the toilet didn't ever fucking work, I'd be pretty pissed off.
Right. Well, and so it also builds, so these porn stars, they're essentially, they're not all of them are models, but they're also building an unrealistic image in the minds of men of how women behave sexually and how women look in sexual encounters and how they're supposed to react and so on, And I think, I really, really do think that the, sex work is work theory it is already and is going to continue to worsen situations for women. And that's just the bottom line. And porn addiction, like I said, is a real issue with men now.
Oh yeah.
It's so easy.
And it is. It is. It's basically you're flooding.
You think video games gives you dopamine? Like
masturbation.
That is nothing compared to porn. For most men.
And so, I think we need my ultimate goal would be back to return to a society where you find out, wow, my neighbor watches porn every 2 days. That's really that's not great. And that's all I want. I don't think we should go beating down doors and throwing people in jail for watching porn. I just think as a society we should be like, man, the goal should be not to watch porn.
Okay, well, how do you? I'll be honest with you. I think you've kind of already lost that fight. I don't think there's winning that fight anymore.
Yeah, it's long gone.
Well, because the bottom line is people like the porn. It's like
Yeah.
you've left it legal for so. It's like if you were to try to come back now and outlaw alcohol, people would just be up in arms, regardless of the fact that there's a lot of alcoholics in America now. They're still not going to stand for it because the only argument against it is I like my porn, and that's really the only argument you need.
It's free. It doesn't hurt nobody else except the person watching.
Oh, that's not necessarily true. Some of the people, so there's been quite a few lawsuits brought against Pornhub for posting non-consensual videos.
Yeah, you have to be verified to post on Pornhub now.
Now,
That was a.
It used to be anyone can
there's
make
all-
any video, but now you got to be verified.
no, yeah, and now so there's the verification that they have added, but they also had an issue with underage people posing as 18-year-olds and making porn and publishing it on free-to-use websites like Pornhub.
Right.
And that's not good. I don't think anyone wants the 16-year-old posting sex videos online.
So the biggest argument you're going to get is when people say the internet's for porn, it's quite literally like porn is the
Like
vast,
70, I think it's 73%.
It's
of
the
the internet.
vast majority of the internet.
Yeah.
Which is kind of bad. A lot of categories you can go through, but not.
We created a mechanism for the infinite expansion of human knowledge, and it is 70% chicks' buttholes. It's not ideal. I don't think anyone would say. If the Library of Alexandria was 70% paintings of nude women, we would be like, well, it's just a porn hut. It's not the Library of Alexandria. And like I said, I just don't think.
Also, if you're paying for porn, you're just an idiot.
Well, I think the thing I would go with is you should all things in moderation. I'm not going to judge you if you watch porn. I watch porn probably more than I should.
Yeah.
But sorry, Mom.
Watch it. I read it.
Oh God.
I'm old school.
But the general idea of it should be relegated to, well, we shouldn't do this. Not that it's fine, I can do it as much as I want, whatever. And it definitely shouldn't be celebrated. And that goes for the actors and actresses, quote unquote, and the viewers.
Well, have you seen? So they're making robots now with kink settings. It's like sex dolls with kink settings.
I also think that's...
And eventually it's going to get... Do you ever watch the Futurama episode where they make robots, celebrities? It's like, well, no, there's no more people making babies because why, try a relationship when I have this perfect robot that does whatever I want.
Yeah. Well, and so that's kind of my argument against the whole sex culture, like porn, OnlyFans, slut culture. Like, what you're giving up the game. Like, women control the world they hold the key to sex. Okay? They hold the key to that gate. Men hold the key to relationships. Because you have to convince the man to stick around and be with only you. One of the big benefits to that is you have to trade these keys. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the women are just giving away their keys.
Well, so the weird thing is, they're not having more sex today. They're having less sex, especially in men. And young men, right? The problem is that I think that you're getting at is that everyone's open about it. So there's no more mystery or chase or anything like that. It's pretty much just, if you want it, it's like we can be upfront about whether or not you're going to get it or not. And that's sort of the deal. So we've got, men today are having career lows in sexual encounters.
I would believe, especially with porn. So why go through all the trouble? Because with a woman, even with slut culture, you're typically going to have to do some amount of courting. You know, it's pretty rare that you're going to find a woman at a bar, take her to a seedy motel room, and, you know, do. But with porn, you don't have to go through all that.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to, I want to stay home and play video games tonight, but man, I'd really like to get off.
VR.
Well, click, and there you go. And that's the same thing that's going to happen with robots, too. I think if sexual AI actually advances to a decent point, I think it's the end of the modern relationship. Because and this goes for men and women too, but to satisfy a man's desires or a woman's desires, you're not going to do as good. I could be a trained professional porn star, and I can't do what a robot can do.
No, you ain't get the length that they can have or the settings.
Right. You know, you can. It's totally customizable, and I mean the same thing goes for like women. Like I could. It sits in the corner gathering dust until I decide to use it. It
literally does whatever I want whenever I want it to.
Right. If I want to hook up a car battery to its nipples, it's going to say yes. You know?
Like, I don't have to take it out to dinner.
Well, I think relationships have already kind of changed. Like,
I mean, for sure.
People aren't getting married like they used to.
The divorce rate's skyrocketing.
Like, I don't know, like, I think young people in general have a huge commitment issue anyways.
Yeah.
They're not getting married. They're not having babies. Really, the only thing offsetting our birth rate is Mexicans coming over here.
Yeah, immigration.
Yeah, that's the only thing offsetting. We would have a declining population if not for immigrants.
So the weird thing is, a lot of kids from my high school are getting pregnant, left, right, and center.
Well, that's another part of sex culture is we're introducing kids to it younger and younger and younger. I mean, I don't know if there's a viral video going around conservative media, and it's this angry angry mother at a PTA meeting at her school, or a board meeting or whatever, and she's saying like she's going through what their policy is on sexual education. They're talking like 1st through 3rd grade, introducing them to anal sex, oral sex, and I mean, so I don't know how old you are in 1st grade, but Wade's going into 1st grade.
7.
Yeah, so 7 years old. The dude's a boys haven't even dropped yet. And he's gonna know.
They're more concerned on what they're eating for dinner with their chocolate milk.
So
Yeah.
like, I don't have a problem with. Well, part of the problem is that we had this weird thing in the 80s and 90s where we didn't really have sex education. We had abstinence only, and I don't think abstinence only is not sex education in my opinion.
Right, and you know, you should be made aware that sex leads to babies and dangers.
I say bullshit because that's not what they're saying. The only way to prevent from like STDs, babies, all that is to just not have any sex.
Well, that's the only 100%.
Well, you know, that's true, but you're taking these humans at the most reproductive point in their life. Their hormones are going 1,000 miles a minute, and all you're doing to help them fight that urge is telling them, hey, don't do it. Like,
just ignore it.
Anyone who ever thought that was going to work, even on paper, deserves to be shot. Like, that is the stupidest idea.
Well, so go with Garrett's idea of, like, they're teaching them younger. Look at Cuties on Netflix.
Yeah.
Or don't, because you might throw up.
Yeah, honestly.
It's disgusting.
And this also
goes
French,
to... right?
Yeah.
So this also goes with the, like, your Instagram models and your OnlyFans is... They're teaching girls at very young ages, this is how you should dress and act. Like, I don't want my 7-year-old daughter looking like a stripper.
So when do you teach kids about sex?
I think puberty normally hits about 14, 15 years old.
Yes, I think that's about I think about 14, 15.
You know, and there are conservative circles where it's like, okay, you don't teach my kids about sex. And that's fine, because at least here in Oklahoma, you have to sign a slip of paper that says, okay, your kid's going to go to a sexual education class for 1 class period this day, right? And really, I think what they really should be doing is just explaining the bios of it. Like, okay, this is what biologically men have. This is the way it interacts with women. This is the biological function of sex. I don't need, at no age do I want my child in school hearing that gender's a spectrum and that...
See, so when we did it, what I went, they taught us how to put a condom on right. They taught us female condoms. They taught us all the safety stuff. And then we had to learn about the STDs, and we had to watch The Miracle of Life. We had to learn all of this, and it's like, all right, so you know how sex works. you know the pros, the cons, you know, the risk, the reward.
Yeah.
It goes, and then they told us, like, you can go get free condoms at these such locations.
Mm-hmm.
There is no excuse to not wear protection in this day and age.
Well, you understand that,
Like in Oklahoma, you
parents-
don't have to be old. There's no age to buy condoms. You can-
parents,
Right.
parents are getting pissed that the school is telling them where to go find free condoms.
But if a parent
So
wants to raise their
parents-
kid,
Parents are under the impression that their school is incentivizing sex,
which is
And
not
so,
what the
so
school
how
is
do
trying
you
to do.
how do you tell the parents that they're wrong?
well, when you start teaching my first grader about anal sex, yeah.
No.
No,
This
we'll
is-
say
it was
seventh grade.
15. It was
Seventh-
15.
You say
know?
7th grade.
But the thing is
15.
it's not 15 right now.
No,
So
it's also not 7 everywhere.
Okay, that's fair. But I mean, so I learned sex ed in 5th grade. That was our sexual education. So if you're 7, so I was 11.
Yeah.
11, 12. You know, that's a little early, but that's fine. I could agree to that. But the problem is, again, like, my issue isn't with them explaining the biological process of sex, the risk, the reward, and making them like, look, condoms are freely available. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is you teaching that to my 7-year-old who has no business. He's 7 or she's 7.
They're more worried about what cartoons are on when they get home.
Right.
Like, they let them be kids still. Don't try to make them adults.
Yeah, I mean, so like, we could argue about the age, but I mean, like that's not even the argument that's taking place. These people are saying that you don't teach my kid anything about sex.
that's why I
But
like.
that's a parent's
that's
choice
why I
too.
like. That's why I like Oklahoma. They make you sign
But it's also why
a waiver.
these people are getting pregnant in high school and in middle school is because these
So-
kids didn't know how to have safe
So
sex.
no offense.
Well, and then that's a fault of their parents.
So no offense.
But you don't hurt the kid for that
No one's hurt. This isn't hurting the kid.
So let's be
by
honest.
not offering them the education. I would say you're hurting the kid.
I would disagree
Okay,
entirely.
do you
So
put-
if I don't teach my kid
If you don't
about
teach your-
gender fluidity,
if you,
then I'm
nope,
hurting my
nope,
child.
I didn't say that, and that's not the argument anyone's making. But if you are not going to teach your kids about gun safety, and then you're going to go give them an Uzi, and you're just going to say have at it for the rest of your life, it is your fault if they fuck up and they shoot themselves in the foot, or worse, or kill somebody else. Like if you know that it's going to happen, and let's be real, kids are at least going to experiment a little, right?
So,
Like at some point in their life.
Okay, at what age do you put your daughter on birth control?
I think that's
That's a personal decision.
I feel like that's.
So let's be honest. If you don't do it in high school, if you're not like high school, maybe like junior year, when you know they're probably blinking. Most guys don't like wearing condoms. Let's be honest here. Are you really asking?
Well, see, and that's another thing. Like, women have utter control of that.
So not so if
Like,
Katie,
if a
Katie-
guy wants to have sex with you and he says, "Well, I don't like condoms,"
the
you
only
tell that guy to get fucked.
the only
Like,
excuse you have, it's not really an excuse. If you're allergic to latex, like you physically can't put a condom
yeah,
on.
but
because
they have sheepskin condoms though.
exactly. So it's like there's
Like-
really no excuse anymore. But if your daughter came up to you in junior year and said, "Dad, I want a birth control," what would you tell her?
Well, on birth control, I'd have to talk it over with her mother. But I mean, so my wife, she was abstinent until we got married.
Mhm.
So don't tell me it's not possible because it
It's
is.
very few
Our
people.
mom was abstinent until she got married,
They're still
or at least till she met Dad.
they're the older generation where it's you
I'm
save
not the
sex.
fuck I am. I am 28 years old. I grew up in the 90s.
Mom and them, they were the you waited till marriage.
a lot has changed since then.
I don't think it has.
Mhm.
I really don't think so. I think sex has been around since the dawn of time.
Okay, so like this. So so look at the 70s. You know, free love, hippies, everyone. Sex was going everywhere. STDs were going rampant. So, me and a few of my buddies from football and our 2 coaches were going to take recruitment pictures. And my buddies were talking about who they did and how they did it. And both my coaches goes, "Wow, this generation's so open about it, whereas their generation is more hush hush about it."
Right.
And you can see the difference. They grew up in, they graduated in the 90s. So it's like, the generations are just different. We're more open. We're like, so my generation is more like the 70s.
We're more open about everything.
Pretty much.
That's true. Now,
Who we vote for, who we have sex with, what our financials are, like none of that.
right.
None of that was conversation back in the day.
Well, and so I think part of the problem and part of the reason that high schoolers are having sex at the rates they are, and I think part of the problem with high school pregnancies is the way in modern media, and I don't mean the news media, but like Hollywood and music, sex is, I mean, it's at the forefront. You know, when WAP is performed at the fucking Super Bowl, you know what I'm saying? Like these.
So I never cared about.
We're
WAP.
glorifying it.
I never cared about WAP. I didn't care when rappers were rapping about their dick and getting it sucked. I didn't care because I don't listen to that music, so I really don't care.
Right, but then the result of that is like Cuties on Netflix, where they see people twerking and getting famous and being rich, and they think, oh, I can just learn to twerk and expose my body, and now I'm famous and popular.
Everyone wants the 15 minutes of fame. And the easiest way to do that for women, they think, is their body.
Yeah.
Look at TikTok. You ever had TikTok? It's full of women just showing off their body. And a lot of them are young. A lot of young women do it, and it's sad.
And I don't think that is what's right for culture.
Okay, so how do we fight this?
I mean, it's a societal thing. So I don't think that legislation, you can legislate morality, but I don't think you can legislate sexual morality without pissing off a lot of people.
Well, we did it for a while.
And a lot of people got pissed off.
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying is, it's got to be a societal thing, and it starts in your home. It starts with you raising your children to be like, look, Nicki Minaj is not the goal here. Showing your ass to anyone who wants to see it and then claiming that's what makes you a boss bitch, that is not the goal.
But the problem we're having is that millennial parents don't really care if that's what their child is doing.
Well, I think that's a personal opinion, I guess. I don't...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, do you have an actual solution, though? It's like, we can talk about, like, how bad it is and stuff, but until someone actually puts pen to paper how we're going to change it, I mean, really, we're just old men at the front porch bitching.
People just have to start caring.
Okay. So
like, that's really the only solution to me.
Okay.
Like, and that's really the only solution for any political problem, is people actually have to start giving a damn. No, civil rights does not get passed unless people actually started caring about it. Period. The Civil War doesn't happen unless people up north decide, hey, slavery is a problem. You know, like, any kind of political movement starts with people deciding, man, I really don't want my daughter, specifically your daughters, raised like this.
Okay.
If it seems like we're focused heavily on women, it's because they are the most affected by this.
Detrimentally, because I there's a reason that when women go online, it's like, man, they should really just let women walk around topless. Every man on your Facebook feed is going to be like, you know what, I fucking agree, women empowerment, because men want to see titties.
When COVID started, I was all for, like, wear the mask, go out topless, save the city, free the titties. I was with that movement.
Yeah, fucking bet you were.
It was like, I was so disappointed no one did it.
I'm saying, like, men are losing less than what women are in this cultural exchange, in my opinion. That's what baffles me, because it's always the feminists that are saying sex work is work, OnlyFans is great, it's women empowerment, and I'm like,
Who would you rather date, the girl with a body count of 2 people, or the girl with a body count of in the hundreds?
Right. And that's like, so, again, I'm not going to marry the woman who slept with 50 men before me. Me personally. Because that is not attractive. You've given it up to anyone who wanted it. Like, why would I marry you? Why would I date you? You're going to either give it up to me or not.
You literally gave it to Tom, Dick, and Harry, and sometimes Tom's Harry Dick.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, it all starts in the home. It has to start in the home.
I really think that if that's the only way to fight this battle, the battle's not even going to get off the ground. Like, there's no way. We don't really, like, regress like that, you know? Like, there would have to be a pretty major cultural movement.
Problem is,
and people won't buy into it. Like, that's not the way cultural movements work. They never regress.
Well,
like
and so part of the problem with trying to get this movement off the ground is the fathers who are like, man, I really don't want my daughter, being raised like this, and then subscribing to OnlyFans. Or subscribing to, whatever.
So what we do know is the more strict the parents, the more a whore the kids are. You ever heard, like, the preacher's daughter is always the freakiest in the bed?
Well, that's not necessarily true, but
it kind of, they did. I can't remember the study. They did a study where it shows that
repression isn't necessarily the answer.
So, like, the more strict the parent is on that issue, turns out the kid is more, sexually activated.
Well, so what is it? The forbidden fruit's always more enticing.
Yeah.
And that's
Just
a
because
mentality.
just because the parents doesn't know about it doesn't mean the kid's not doing it.
That's true.
And
But
I see another issue is the millennial parents today are more friends with their kid. They're not parents, they're friends.
I wasn't friends with my dad till I turned 21 and could drink with him. And then I wasn't friends with him for a long time because I was drinking all his booze.
So our dad was always like, he was always a friend, but when he needed to be a parent, he was a parent.
Right, he would whoop my ass.
Yeah, you say, you knew right from wrong, and he didn't have to tell you twice.
And if he had to tell you twice, it was at the end of his belt.
Yeah.
But, so we've covered porn. I've kind of covered media. I think, I'd call them trashy women. Just to be perfectly honest. Like the musicians, mostly, that are coming out and they're just twerking on stage to the tune of millions of dollars. I think it's disgusting. Like, WAP, I think it's awful. So, personal opinion, take it for what it's worth. But, so, I guess we can go ahead and get into OnlyFans, which is it's just porn.
Well, so before, WAP, I don't think, what's her name? It's not Megan Thee Stallion. She sings the song too, but what's her name? The girl who sings
Cardi
the song.
B.
Thank you. Yeah, geez, don't look at me like that, dumbass.
Well, you were looking
But
at me
I,
like
I didn't know who the fuck
Well,
you're
I know
talking
Nick
about.
knew, and he looked at me like I was.
I was
speaking
trying to
gibberish.
think of the name. It was going blank.
But so from her perspective, she sees a world around her where everyone else is allowed to make money however the fuck they damn well please. Why shouldn't she be able to do the same?
Just the way she used to make money was drugging and then robbing men.
No.
Yeah.
Forget what she's done in the past.
Why? Why should we?
Yeah,
forget
why should
that?
we forget that?
Because she's
like
making
she raped
at
men
least,
and robbed them.
At least she's making an honest living now.
But you still don't get a pass on raping and robbing men.
But you understand, you guys are moving the argument to something that we weren't talking about. Like if that's what we're gonna do, that's fine. But are we just gonna ignore the fact that we were talking about sex?
I'm just
culture?
mad.
Okay.
I'm just
You know
mad.
what I'm saying? Like
I'm just mad that nothing.
So we can
came of
say
that.
we can say that what she did was bad, but in the context of
I'm
this
saying it's
conversation,
not relevant, is what I'm saying.
I think anyone who
I
gets
think it
who rapes and robs people is pretty relevant
should probably be in jail.
on how their morality is.
Well, I'm saying to her and to millions of Americans, it's not even a moral issue.
To rape and rob?
No, sex culture. Like third wave feminism, whatever the heck this is, has kind of taken over.
Sadly.
Yeah.
And these women see no problem with what they're doing. And why should they? Like give an example of
Okay.
why
So
they should.
how is this detrimentally affecting women?
Yeah. And then, even if you gave them a reason why, it's got to be enough for them to care to stop making money from what they're doing. And if that's... You got to have a lot to stop people from making money. Especially if it's a lot of money.
So the thing is the decisions you're going to make before you're ready to settle down. So let's say, women are wanting to settle down around 35. If you sleep with 200 men before you're 35, then you're finally ready to settle down. You're going to start looking, and the pickings are pretty slim. And then on top of that, you're going to want, a guy who's worth settling down for, and you're either going to lie to him, or just going to have to take the chance that he's not going to be thrown off by the fact that you've been with 200 men. And me personally, if I find out, like when I was going through high school and dating and stuff like that, if I find out you'd been, at the time it was like 10 dudes. If you'd been with 10 dudes, I'm out. Like, I don't need that. Like, what benefit is there to me? If 10 other dudes already been getting it, you're either going to give it to me or you're not, and I don't have to date you.
Most high school dudes don't care. I would just be straight up honest with you. Like, there's a reason she slept with 10 dudes, and it's because the other 9 didn't care.
I mean, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
So, but what about the thing is those decisions you make when you're younger affect you when you're older.
Okay.
So, does a 35-year-old man care? When he's looking for a stable partner?
So, what if they're ready to face that consequence, though?
then it's a personal decision. I mean, to be quite honest with you, I'm not going to start. Like I said, I don't think we should legislate that sex work ought to be outlawed. I mean, in a perfect world, maybe, but I don't think you ever get that through. And
It's too marketable.
well, it's too socially accepted.
No, it's just there's a
Is
lot of
the
money.
problem.
There's a lot
And then
of money in it.
even like hardcore conservatives are not going to say, yeah, we need to outlaw porn. Like that's the thing.
So the only people I see really affected are the kids.
Children and women. I think
Yeah.
women are going to start being. The longer this goes on, the more and more women are not going to start getting, and not all women, because not all women want the, okay, let's get married and settle down and have kids or whatever. But the ones who do are going to start finding it harder and harder and harder to get to that, because why? Why, as a man, would I, if there's 10 women in front of me, and one of them, or let's say 4 of them, are, you know what, we can't have sex till we're married. But then the other 5 are, hey, take me out to dinner, and I do what I'm going to do, because I just do me. Why? Why would I deal with the other 4 women when I can just go get what I want, go home and go back to living my life and not be harassed about mowing the lawn or playing video games or taking care of you? I could just
I mean,
come
I
and
think
go.
there's a lot more to a relationship than just sex. Women bring
It is
a lot more to the table.
Like what?
Well,
I'm not disagreeing with you, but for example,
I will
the
say this.
same thing we bring to the table.
well, that's not
No,
necessarily true.
I'll tell you right now.
Because women and men want
Oh,
different
oh.
things.
Women and pets are the only thing loved unconditionally. Men have to bring something to the table. Men are the only people who have to bring either a job, humor. They have to bring something to the table to make it worthwhile.
Security.
Yes. Women and pets are loved unconditionally.
Yeah. I mean, I think I could agree with that.
I'm just saying, I don't know that many men marry just for the sex.
And that's true.
But
I
But again-
think that's honestly a dumb way to do it.
but then again,
But-
if you buy a house and it doesn't have a toilet, you wouldn't buy the house.
Right.
It's a
So
it's a function.
men
It's a
and-
function of the relationship that kind of needs to be there.
Men and women benefit differently from marriage. So a woman gets, someone who's going to stick by her side, who's going to protect her, who's going to be, someone who listens to her, someone who cares beyond the physical. Because any man's going to care physically. If you're a good-looking girl, you're not going to have a problem getting laid. That's just facts. But someone who cares about her beyond that point.
The older you get, the more. So once your hormones settle down after a certain age, sex is kind of meh. It doesn't happen as much when you get older.
Oh, that's true.
But when you're young, your hormones are like
Raging.
ride. You just want to ride something.
All right, Nick.
My goodness.
Yeah.
It's just
I
honestly.
can feel the generational gap here.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
so
think
what-
about
what-
it.
hang on, 'cause-
You're late 20s. I'm early 20s. So your hormones are starting to calm down a little bit. Mine are just now ramping up.
yeah, I don't think that's accurate.
My libido is higher.
I feel insulted right now. But oh my god. Anyway, so I think I just went over what women get out of a relationship or marriage. What do men get? So, you get someone who makes women multiply things. If you give a woman a house, she gives you a home. If you give a woman a career or a job, she turns it into a career. If you give a woman a baby, she raises the child, and and that's not perfect, all the time things, but if there's no what else besides her innate abilities to be a homemaker and even be a partner if she's going to work or something like that, what are the incentives given everything a man has to do to maintain that relationship that go against our biological nature? No women, no man gives a fiddler's fuck what you and your girlfriend at work gossiped about today. But we will listen because we care. But what there's an exchange rate here. There's give and take. The reason we listen is because you are also going. If there's no incentive for us to listen, no incentive for us to be put up with being nagged. And I understand this is 3 men on a podcast right now. We probably should have had a guest.
All I'm gonna see in the podcast, you straight white males.
No, yeah, I'm gonna get.
You misogynist
that's fine.
bigots. So my biggest thing is, you should date for happiness. If she doesn't make you happy, then what's the point?
See, I think that's flawed in and of itself because if you're seeking your happiness from someone else, you're always just going to be looking. Because eventually you're going to be married for 25 years,
here's the thing,
and there's a cute 25-year-old secretary who makes you really happy.
No, think about
You're
this.
looking for short-term gratification. I don't know that, like, if you've been married at that point for that long, like, there's few men that'd throw it away, right? But I think even more men than you think would stick it through with the old gal.
So it's like, would you rather wake up to a complete stranger every morning, or would you rather wake up to someone who genuinely makes you happy every day? Makes you want to see the next day?
Yeah.
I think for a lot of men, it'd be waking up to somebody different every day.
In this newer gender, that's very possible. I got a buddy of mine who would
It's
fuck any girl with a hole.
Like, especially now. You know what I'm saying?
It's like, me personally, I like to wake up to someone I know is going to be
Because
there, listen to me if I have a problem at work.
And there's no shame in it either. Part of it is the glorification of, so there is a little bit more shame on men now. Which, fair is fair. Women were shamed for a long time. I get that y'all want to try to flip the dime, but the bottom line is men don't care. You know who was slut-shaming women? Mostly other women. Because men didn't give a fuck. And men still don't give a fuck. If I found out that my buddy slept with 20 chicks, I'm like, man, dude's got to be packing mule meat.
I wonder what cologne he wears.
Yeah. I really think that giving up the keys to the kingdom so easily and then being glorified for doing so
you're saying,
is going to...
You should be very picky with who you give those keys to?
Absolutely. I think, because women... the thing is you're giving up your power. Like, that's the bottom line to me. The reason I think this is a danger to women is because by doing porn, by sleeping with anyone you feel like, and not anyone you feel like, but anyone in the world, by doing these things, you are giving up your most powerful bargaining chip. Because men are pretty easy.
Pussy power is very real.
That's facts. Women could rule the planet if they would just
if they knew
not
how to
put
use
out
if they knew
until
how to
we did
wield
what
it.
they wanted.
If they knew how to wield it. So basically, if all the women went up on a mountain and said, "We're not coming down until we get what we want," eventually, men might hold out for a while, but eventually you're going to get that one motherfucker like, "All right, we'll come to terms."
Right.
And then they're like, "All right, guys, once we're all getting laid, we don't do a fucking thing."
And they'll go right back up that mountain.
Send it back up the mountain.
But that's the thing. If you keep giving out the keys to the kingdom, then you're just giving up your own power.
So another
under the guise of empowerment.
So my point to help Garrett's ad's like, if they do porn and then they date a guy, no offense, you're not going to compare to the guys they slept with on the porn site.
Well, speak for yourself, Tiny.
You think you're going to deal with, some big old black guy? You ain't. Nope.
No. I ain't.
That 13-inch hang thing. Whew. He makes a horse jealous.
God damn. Okay. This is. Wrap up the comments that talk about dick sizes.
So I think we all want to stop the normalizing, but the part that I'm finding the most frustrating is like I don't want teen pregnancy, which is on the rise, right? But kids are having less sex, so we're having more unsuccessful sex, even though we're having less of it, right?
So so we're having more pregnancies from sex, even though there's less sex in total.
Yeah.
Well, you can't
teenage.
You can't have sex when she's pregnant.
So we're trying to
that silence there was me and Wyatt staring at Nick for all the stupid.
Yeah. So we're trying to lower the sex culture, but the part that I'm getting so frustrated about is that we don't really have a solution. And like I said, we're just old men on a porch yelling at young people.
That is, you're not wrong. But I don't. So, do you have any ideas for legislated solutions?
I mean, you could ban porn.
Not gonna work. So here's the thing.
I don't think anyone goes for that.
So here's the thing. So you got a buddy, and say he's with a girl, and she says he's not allowed to watch porn. You know how hard that would be for that man not to cheat on her? If they didn't have sex and he couldn't watch porn, he had nothing to relieve
I don't
himself.
think men cheated on their wives a whole lot back in the day before.
That they got laid a lot more. Because there was nothing to do except
That's because men
Grow
called the shots.
grow your crops and fuck. That's where you had families of 12 kids.
I
In
mean,
today's time, like if Nicole never she never slept with you again, and then you never could watch porn, you would think you're an honorable man, but it would be a struggle.
there's no doubt it'd be hard, but I would probably just give her what she wanted so that we can have sex.
But what if she said no? What if she said no more sex? Period. And
Well,
then
we would probably get a divorce
exactly.
because I'm not living in a celibate marriage.
Exactly. So it's like, porn's kind of, no offense, a necessity.
So, and I'm not saying like women should just always be abstinent. I'm just saying instead of handing it out to some dude who spent $20 on you at a bar, maybe hold out for somebody who's not just after that.
So
Okay.
do the chase. If he's willing to chase for a little bit, it's probably worth it. If he's uninterested in like the first like 2 days, and he ghosted you, probably shouldn't have been the guy you slept with.
Yeah.
But if he's willing to do the chase, now some guys like the chase. I like the chase, but I can only go for so long.
That's another, like, women should want to be courted.
Hmm.
Like, to be sought after, you know? And I'm not a woman, maybe women just don't find that appealing anymore. But, like Nick said, you know, you should want to be courted and shown that you are not just here for sex.
You can only chase the roadrunner so many times and not catch it before you just fuck off and go get a rabbit. It's something that's something easy.
Well, in that scenario, the rabbit has a shotgun, though.
Bugs Bunny had a shotgun.
Bugs Bunny has so many shotguns.
He took all the Elmer Fuds.
Yeah. But as far as actual solutions, I really, like I said, besides a societal change,
We're just
which
old
now
men.
the good news there is that society does go through cycles. So, you know, we had the...
Well, no, look at the 70s. So
You
the
don't think
70s
so?
was free love and all that. And the 80s kind of went back. The 80s and 90s
Yeah,
kind of
so
went
It
back.
got more conservative.
So what happened was this generation from the '60s. Mom, I'm sorry. They literally would go out. They would smoke drugs. They would suck fucking fondle in as many orgies and just have the most outrageous sex they could possibly have.
And then age skyrocketed.
And then they turn 35, and they're staring down the barrel of middle-aged burnout, and they're like, we have to prevent young people from ever doing this again. And instead of telling them why they shouldn't, they just told them that they shouldn't, and that repression is what's caused today.
And it'll go back. Eventually, it will go back.
Not the way you think.
not probably
yeah,
not.
not back to 1980s.
No.
But we'll dial it back. You know,
And then
there's a
it'll-
big
and then-
run forward.
And then it'll come back
And then
up
we'll
again.
I
It'll come
honestly,
back up, and then it'll go back.
I wouldn't bet on it. I'm not quite sure what y'all are expecting whenever y'all say dialing it back, but I wouldn't expect too much. I'm not very optimistic on this front. I'll be completely honest. If you haven't been able to pick that one up,
So you just think that where we're at's where we're at, and we're just going to have to hope for the best? Because, I mean,
I don't
we've had
see it.
topics like that before.
I just don't see it getting better because this is when we literally. It's not like we have solutions, but we just don't know how to implement them. Right? It's
Right.
like no. This is like on culture stuff. I have no idea. Literally, how
You have to change
You're
your
changing-
mainstream culture.
You're
and that's
changing the
hard.
mindset of 400 million.
Well,
people.
you have to. So the first thing to do is change media. So you have to get it to where Cardi B and whoever the other fuck one you said, where their music is no longer popular. So, and you can look at the science behind, you know, like why certain music is popular because some of it's because it resonates with what people are really going with.
Okay. So
I don't think that many people resonated
Okay, I have a
with
question.
WAP.
Should we
But-
do the same with male artists?
What do you mean?
So rappers have been singing about laying chicks and you get their dick sucked since the 90s. But when WAP
Absolutely.
when WAP came out, everyone's like, "Oh, pish posh." It's like, well, you also listen to this rapper who just talked about banging 20 girls at once.
Yeah, and you know, by all means, we should dial that back too. So, you're gonna catch me, and you know, call me a hypocrite, call me what you will, but men and women are different, and you can't treat them exactly the same. You know, so what's slut shaming for women is because you know the old adage is if you have a key that unlocks many locks, you have a master key. If you have a lock that's unlocked by many keys, you have a shit lock.
Okay.
They're men and women are biologically different. We have different drivers. to
Women like sex too, you know.
I understand women enjoy
Okay.
sex. I'm not trying to, like I said, I'm really not. My fear,
So-
the reason I picked this topic is because I really do think the sexual direction that the culture is taking is going to end up being much more detrimental to women
You think
than
they're
it will be
taking
to
all the
men.
emotion out of it?
Motion out of what?
Sex.
No, I don't think women are capable of taking the emotion out of sex.
Just because the women view sex on a different emotional level. Men do a physical level. We like the physical
Yes.
pleasure. Women like the more emotional ties behind it. That's just how we're bred. Men are physical, women are emotional.
And this again goes to men and women are different with different biological drivers.
Yes. It's how it's been since the dawn of time. Men are physical. We do physical strength. It's
But
like
on a purely basic level, like a purely primordial level, men have an urge to reproduce. Women have an urge to be supported and taken care of. Now, I'm not saying, not at all, that is a perfect translation to 2021. But to ignore that these are the driving factors
these are your
in male and female biology is to ignore a whole
So-
section of the
so
question.
women are naturally good caregivers. Naturally, women are
Oh,
just
for sure. I
they're
mean, my wife took to being a mom
exactly.
like a fish to water.
So it's like because it's biologically in their DNA.
Yes.
Men, no offense, women, but if you're wearing a t-shirt, basically a sports bra that shows so much cleavage, you can't get mad at the guy for staring at you because he is programmed to look for stuff like that.
I don't agree with that wholly. So men are biologically incentivized to look at it and to enjoy it, but I'm not saying that men should have no self-control. That we are
No.
operating purely on our biological area. I was like,
Unless he's a piece of shit, men have self-control.
right. So one of the big arguments is back in the day, a woman would get raped and they'd be like, well, what was she wearing? It's like, I don't give a fuck what she was wearing. The dude's a rapist.
So school. So should dress codes be a thing? I think absolutely. We
Yeah.
shouldn't have kids. We shouldn't have young kids. And they're like, well, the teacher's sexualized. And I'm like, no, they're doing it to themselves.
Yes.
You
They're
knew-
mimicking the culture.
You knew what you were wearing coming out, and I'm no offense.
You wanted attention.
Basically, I'm like, and it's going to be good and bad. You're going to get called every name under the sun for both good and bad. You're going to be called beautiful, brave, and you're going to be called slut, whore. You're going to be called everything. It comes with the territory. It's a double-edged sword. You got to have both. And you can get offended by being called all those derogatory names, but you're the one who wanted attention.
You still
You just
chose
didn't
it.
like what you got.
No one wears shorts with their ass hanging out to not get looked at.
Is it? No one wears
So
a
the
crop
woman-
top that shows underboob with he's looking at me. What? Had the audacity?
Right. And you know what? Women can dress how they want, but like Nick said,
You
you can't be mad at the consequences.
He's like, oh, well, he's catcalling me. Well, what do you think was going to happen? You knew you were going to
Now,
get
so that gets into a male acting on how you're dressed. Men are not devoid of responsibility here. Just because we have biological urges does not give you free reign to be a dick.
But you know that you're going to get attention. It's going to be, some of it's going to be derogatory. You know it's going to happen.
I mean, so that would be my thing. Is like you're dressing or you're performing a certain way. You're acting.
you're
a
trying to
certain
get a
way
reaction from
to
somebody.
get a reaction, and when all those reactions aren't exactly what you wanted, you get upset, and that's like, well, fuck.
Well,
So I'm sure if there are any women that listen to this podcast, there are a lot of women that are going to be pissed off at me.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's kind of how it is. This is a podcast about our opinions, and if you don't like it, feel free to leave a comment about what I am.
feel free to be that you're wrong. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, you're allowed to be wrong. This is America.
America.
But again, and I understand the frustration because I really, like Wyatt said, the only thing we can do is legislate away porn. My whole thing for that is
Everyone likes
Or,
porn.
like, I mean, there's no macro or micro way to fight this. You know, like
beyond individual family structures.
that's not gonna work because you're only around your kids so much.
Your kid's going to do what he
Yeah.
wants.
Well, I think
And
by middle school, parents are no longer the driving force of their children's growth, like into a person.
Like, no offense, if you are a parent that's, you don't teach your kid about sex and what it is, and you try to shield them from that, the second they do have sex, they're not going to know what to do. So, let your kids make mistakes. I hate helicopter parents who Because I got buddies who don't know how to run a washer and a dryer because their parents always did it for them. You know how sad that it,
or just teach your kids.
Teach your kids the risk to reward of sex and be like, hey, don't come to me crying if you slept with a guy and now the school's calling you a whore. Because you slept with half the football team.
A government agency should never...
So, the reason women are getting so pissed and they're sort of wearing that as like a badge of honor. So, like, whenever you call Cardi B a slut, Cardi B doesn't care. Do you want to know why Cardi B doesn't care? Because she sees the double standard. And she's not okay with the double standard. She says, men like sex, why can't I like sex?
You can like sex.
I'm just saying.
Why should she have to be embarrassed about having a lot of sex? Guys aren't. That's from her perspective.
Then,
so, you should...
I mean, that's fine.
And it's just a difference of opinion that we have from her, and I don't know how to fix it.
Women are more private about it. They don't want everyone to know they have sex, and when you sleep with 10 guys...
Some women are fine with it. Some
are. But it's like, don't be mad if half the girls on the softball team call you a slut because you slept with half the football team.
So, see, that's kind of my thing here. Is if this is what you want to do as a woman, if you want to get an OnlyFans, or you want to get this, or you want to sleep with everybody, you know what? More power to you. But I think it's going to do you more harm than good.
You're not above criticism,
and you're also not above criticism.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think the women who have the OnlyFans care about any of the criticism.
Well, yeah, they're wiping their face with $100 bills.
Yeah, I really don't think they care.
And that's, you know what? That's a personal decision. I just think for society,
it's funny. It's because most of them don't know how to pay taxes that way, and they get really
What's scary to me is that now that I have a daughter, realizing this is the society that she's going to grow up in that glorifies twerking, that glorifies women using their bodies for whatever, that glorifies a person who roofied and robbed men in hotels. Like, I don't want her to grow up in a society like that. Because I want her to realize her value as a woman is not just in what she can perform sexually.
You spent a lot of this podcast saying that is the only power that they have, though. And that they had better learn how to wield it and wield it right.
It's definitely the most powerful thing they have.
But
to sway the opinions of men.
I mean, I would say go listen to the earlier part of this conversation. You made it sound like we provide a lot. And basically, all that we get in return is the sex.
Well, no, what we get in return is a multiplier.
Yeah, so like you said that later. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know. You made it sound like women were just sex objects that we chose to marry.
No. That was not my intention. Hopefully they made it this far in if they thought that was my intention. I just think...
Well, I got 100 comics.
Yeah. I really just think that women are deriding themselves to merely sex objects.
You're belittling yourself. You're literally becoming...
You're right.
You're literally
you're
like, I'm not a sex object, but you're lowering yourself to that opinion.
Yes. To that. You're taking yourself from here to sex object.
You could have been a doctor. Say you could have been a doctor. And then you decided...
What, female doctors don't like sex either? Like,
not saying they do, but then what if someone's like, they realize...
You ever seen Grey's Anatomy?
I'm just saying, like...
No, I haven't.
You could have been a doctor, but instead you decided to make an OnlyFans.
And now, to do the easy thing and just sell your body.
Yeah. And now you literally are just a sex object.
And I'm sure we're going to get comments or people who are like, you know what, these people are just jealous because no one's going to pay for their dude nudes. And you know what? I'm not, because I wouldn't sell my body like that.
Joke's on you, I got pretty profitable feet pics online.
Personally, like, try and sell my nudes. But, I mean, like, look, what I'm getting at here is that, like, we're not communicating in a way that's going to make any ground. You know what I'm saying? Because all women are going to say is, why can men be proud and brag about how much sex they have, but women can't? And they're absolutely right that it's a double standard. And the only thing we have to come back with it is that we're men and women, and we deserve to be treated differently for that reason. And they're just going to look at that as like, well, that's bigotry.
So my argument to that would be, you can do whatever you want, but you need to realize that makes you an unappealing partner.
There are consequences to every action. If you do that, and you have to take every good with bad.
I think that they've weighed that. It's not like some girls just decide today that they're going to do.
I
an
would for
OnlyFans.
sure.
No,
no,
that is very much a thing.
And
I see how hard
I
it
would
is.
also.
I've seen many girls from my class drop out of college and make an OnlyFans because college was too hard.
And we've had the discussion that we are putting a lot of pressure on 18-year-olds to pick a college, right? To pick what they're going to do for the rest of their life. This sex culture thing's the same thing. What you are doing here, if you're going out and trying to date someone at 35, because again, you're finally ready to settle down, whatever age it is, and they found out you had an OnlyFans for 10 years, like, that's what you are allowed to do whatever you want because this is America, okay? But I personally
It's always going to follow
think
you.
it is going to hurt you in the long run.
Imagine trying to get a job, an actual job after, say, you're a porn star. And not saying it can't happen, but it's, no one knows Mia Khalifa as a sports broadcaster. They know her as the guy at the Bang Bros did.
Yeah, but if a news channel advertises Mia Khalifa as their new weather girl, motherfucker's gonna watch. Like,
right. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea.
I really do think that the glorification of this, is detrimental. Is definitely more detrimental to women, but detrimental to society in general.
Look, I feel like we're telling a smoker that eventually this is going to cause cancer,
And the smoker's going to tell you, I don't give a rip. And it's like telling an alcoholic, like, hey, one day you may end up beating your kids, or and the alcoholic's going to say, I don't care. It's like, it would probably be better for society in general if we got rid of alcohol, we got rid of cigarettes.
So, but let's look at what happened with smoking.
But
So it was widely socially acceptable, but now you can't smoke in bars, you can't smoke on state property. This is in Oklahoma. You can't smoke in public places. We restricted.
I'm on the bar scene a lot. I can tell you that bars are like a lot of them have open smoke.
Maybe it's not bars, but
some actually do have a smoking only area.
We restricted smoking because of its detrimental effects to people around you.
Okay. So the problem is smoking directly affects other people though. Like your sex life is completely like between you and the person you are having sex with.
Ideally, but that's not really how it works anymore.
I'd say it's pretty much how it works. The problem is that now we're establishing a culture that kind of accepts you can just be open about it and no consequences.
In the social media age too.
Yeah.
So there's a part being played here by social media that's kind of gone ignored. Instagram at this point, if you log in on Instagram, it's 90%.
It's ThoughtGram.
Yeah.
It's ThoughtGram now.
You guys need new Instagrams. Mine's nothing but sports, but that's probably just my algorithm.
Oh, mine's nothing but politicians, but I get on it
I don't have an Instagram.
every 5 days. But anyway, like I said, my main point is, a lot of people may not believe me, but I really am. It's out of my opinions for this are out of concern for women in the future.
No, I'm
specifically young women.
I'm mostly in agree with you. Like I'm just saying, I just don't know how you're going to solve this because there was no amount of smoking that was, or science, whatever objective arguments we had that was going to tell a smoker in his 40s, like, hey, this is going to hurt you and cause cancer. There was no getting him off smoking.
Well, I think that's a bad analogy because smoking is an addictive thing.
Well, so is sex.
So is porn.
And so is money.
Is porn. So porn is addictive to the person watching it, not the person doing it.
Well, I don't know. You can be a sex addict.
That is the thing. That is the thing, but it's mostly men.
I mean, it's still a flood of endorphins.
So the porn stars and stuff in this example would be like the cigarette. You would be the person smoking the cigarette and watching the. So, but I mean, it just we can acknowledge that it's a problem, but at the end of the day, this is America, and we value our freedom so much that we are willing to do it to the point where it's a detriment. And I think we have to, if we're going to accept freedom, I think we have to be willing to accept the detriments that come with it.
And that's why I made the statement that this needs to be something that that the process is at home, is with you raising your families, you raising your men, you raising your daughters, you're raising your interactions with your spouse.
The problem is is that we are a product of our whole environment.
Yes. And in a social media
you can
age,
be the perfect parent. But outside, whenever you are not around them, they are open to every other influence on the earth, especially in the information age.
Say this: no one,
Worst and best.
no
whatever
one
that
raises a rapist. All right. So
yeah.
no one raises a murderer. You can raise your kid to be the best person ever. What they really are, you don't know yet. You don't know how they're going to take to their environment.
That's true.
So you can be a perfect parent and then end up having a Jeffrey Dahmer for a kid.
What if just on a governmental level, we restricted, so like on Instagram, you can no more bikini pictures. You have to be fully
Well,
clothed.
you're gonna get to the claim that, well, I'm on vacation. I want to show the people on my vacation, and there's gonna be so many people who can be like, that's body shaming, or this, that, and the other. You have the freedom of expression as well.
Any step we take towards this, whether it's outlawing porn or what I just mentioned, there's gonna be fight.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a fight.
So the problem is Instagram, it being an independent company, you also have the freedom of expression. You can express however you want, be that bikini pics,
But they don't allow nudity on Instagram.
Because young kids.
Instagram is not a government app, so like freedom of expression would go for like you can dress however you want. You can express yourself however you want.
As long as you're in the guidelines of our terms, you're fine. And nudity's always been, no YouTube, Instagram, everything.
Well, I think because there is, if you're showing nudity, you have to be at 18 plus. Like, I think the government has legislation on the books for that. So
Anything lower is child pornography.
I mean, I think that would be a good step for these social media companies to take, or for us to legislate, is if you're going to have revealing pictures.
It's go ahead and finish your point.
If you're going to have revealing pictures, if you're going to allow women to post bikini pictures and stuff like that, or men, even men in Speedos, this goes both ways. Now, obviously, there are more women on there, but if you're going to allow that kind of content to be posted, then you put an 18 age restriction on.
Yeah, so it's a good idea, and it would work, but I think we're under a misconception, and that's that social media companies care about culture. They care about money.
Right.
They care about seeming to side with a side or something.
Right. They're not going to change their policy that would result in less people using
Right.
Instagram.
Look at Amazon, all these big companies. Okay, so it's Gay Pride Month. A lot of them changed their logos to the Gay Pride flag. You think they really care about gay people? No, they care
Well, I
about...
for sure know some of them don't give a damn about gay
Exactly, they care about your bank account. Like, Amazon don't care about if you're gay or not. They care about your bank account and if you're willing to spend. It's great PR. That's all Instagram and every other company cares about is PR. And they'd rather go to social and cultural norms than what the federal government wants.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess wrapping up thoughts, like I said, and I've said it a few times, but I really want to get this point across. I am coming from a place, whether you believe it or not, I'm coming from a place where I really do want what's best for women. And I understand that as a guy, I don't really get to decide that. But I think there are going to be really detrimental consequences to women in society if we continue on this path without some kind of course
maybe
correction.
not now. It may not be now, but down the road it might be.
Right. It may not be now when you're 22 and have an OnlyFans, but when you're 35...
With the kids, and then your kid comes home crying because another kid showed him, your tits on his phone. He's asking what happened.
Right.
this video is so getting age restricted. That's
Oh,
fine.
yeah. I mean, it qualifies as educational. I mean, there's literally a video on YouTube that is not age restricted that is dildo or penis. And it's two gay men deciding whether or not it's a dildo or a dick in his ass.
Yeah,
If we get age restricted on this,
there's breastfeeding.
bullshit.
There's breastfeeding videos.
I will age restrict it myself after that.
well, I'm just saying, that's
My God.
YouTube standards are a little biased. But, like I said, it really, I think it's going to hurt women in society more than it could possibly benefit you. And you know what? You're your own person. You decide but
You may not realize it now, but when you get older, you get more wisdom, you get more experience with life itself. You may change your mind.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of smokers, whenever they got to 60 and they said, wow, I've got lung cancer.
Really regretted the past 40 years of smoking.
Exactly. So
When you get to 35
It's a little-
and you can't find a partner to settle down with, and
It's a little too late, and then whenever they tell young people below them, like, hey, don't smoke, they're like, well, why should I stop smoking? You stop smoking. You know, like, if no one's got any principle or example,
it's like
I mean, what the hell are you arguing
it's like-
on except
it's-
sand?
yeah, it's like me telling you to eat better as I'm eating a freaking Big Mac and you're over there eating a salad.
Well, I think we all understand the argument. I think just, fuck.
I mean, to
Yeah.
me, there's really no solution except trying to teach the younger generations, like, you can be more than just a sex object.
you can and you should.
You should.
You should expect better.
So I always told my friends, like, why be a nurse when you can be a doctor? You know you can be a doctor. You have the capability, so why settle for being a nurse? Go be a doctor. Why sell yourself short?
Well, that's an ambition problem.
Yeah.
But
So why sell yourself short when you can be something better than be a sex worker? Because it's easy.
Because it's easy.
It's easy to say life got
And it
hard,
is.
so I just made an only.
And that's something I didn't really touch on as we're wrapping up here, is your body isn't forever.
It deteriorates. It gets out
Now,
on you.
unless you're, Jennifer Aniston, who's 50 and still smoking hot. But for most average people, your body is going to deteriorate with the
And
years.
eventually, you're going to become the old, and they're going to go to
And if
something new.
If all you ever did was have an OnlyFans till you're 35, and then your body's like, okay, you know what? Why am I subscribing to a 35 when there's fresh 20-year-olds
On the market.
on the market? I'll cancel my subscription. Now you're up shit creek with no paddle, no
Yeah.
work experience.
So the funny thing about OnlyFans now is there's so many of them with women doing this that it's kind of drowning out, because why would I pay $35 for you when there's a just better looking girl for $5 a month? And then basically they're just canceling subscriptions once the girl raises the prices, and they're going to. It's leaving a bunch of these people with no money. 'Cause-
no money and no work experience.
And, so they're like, and then they're complaining like, well, the patriarchy and misogyny. Like, no, they just found a better deal.
You're preying, and OnlyFans is preying on men's baser instinct. You don't get to be mad when that baser instinct is applied. You don't get to be mad when you turn 30 and it's like, no, I want to see
So the
25.
problem with OnlyFans, you're literally deciding how much you think your body is worth.
Which, if anyone's going to decide it, I guess
They
it
do.
ought to be you.
Yeah.
But,
Don't get mad if you raise the price and people think you're not worth that much and go to someone else.
yeah, that's going to hurt your feelings, though.
So I don't know how we fix it other than cultural change, but I don't think the younger generation's ever going to listen to the older generation. Never has, never will.
Like I said, I think this all begins and probably ends at home. Raise your children right. Raise them to respect themselves.
It's all about self-respect.
And, and raise them to expect more out of potential partners. And
Yep.
that goes for both genders.
Wrapping thoughts?
I mean, it's all about your self-respect. You respect yourself enough to not just give the keys to the kingdom to anybody. Like, would you just let anyone drive your truck? No. You'd want someone you trusted, someone you knew, to drive your vehicle. If I own a Lamborghini, I wouldn't just let anyone drive that. Only someone I would trust and knew would drive that. And kind of the same, like, don't just give it to anybody and everybody. Because that's how you do get STDs like AIDS. You get AIDS, it may not kill you, but it's to the point now where if you have an STD and you don't tell someone else, that's a felony.
Oh, and I think it should be.
It is. It's now a felony. It's in a lot of states, especially like Oklahoma. If you have even if it's just herpes or anything like gonorrhea, and you
Just herpes, huh?
Yeah.
well,
Just a permanent
So the
disease
funny-
of pimples on your wiener.
the funny thing is, with herpes nowadays, it's so common. You're actually a minority if you.
That's disgusting.
So like the majority has it. You're a minority if you don't. There's a higher.
I've
percent-
never been so happy to be a minority.
There's a higher percentage of having it than not. But if you don't tell them you have like gonorrhea or syphilis or something, and you sleep with them and they get it, that's felony.
I firmly agree with that.
And you're just increasing your risk with more people you sleep with. So you got to be careful.
Especially unprotected.
Yes, and let's be honest, a lot of younger generation having unprotected sex. It's why teen pregnancy is through the roof.
Well, and, birth control doesn't prevent herpes. Condoms prevent herpes.
Yeah.
So, Wyatt, you got closing thoughts?
No, I think I've said my piece. So, Is that it?
Wow. Nick, we just talked about not exposing your body.
It's hot as fuck in here.
I know
alright?
it's hot, man. I'm sorry.
God,
we
I'm
can't
fat. I'm bacon.
we can't run the AC on the podcast though.
105 degrees. You
I think
commies.
I think that's good. Why? Go ahead and close us out.
Alright, well, we'll talk to y'all later. This has been the Refined Peasants. We'll probably start getting back to more politics after this. We're just, honestly, not a lot has happened, so we'll get back to more soon, but we'll talk to y'all later.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that little notification bell in the corner, and be sure to let us know if you guys have any ideas for what you want to see from us next. We're a new upcoming podcast. Share it with your friends if you're confident.